Hi, thanks for joining us for this Drone Nerds Tech Talk. Today, we're going to be doing an unboxing of the new DJI Agras T20. I'm Michelle McMillan, Marketing Director at Drone Nerds. Sam Sacalis, Enterprise Lead at Drone Nerds, will be hosting today's webinar, and our Tech Support Manager, Giovanni Ruiz, will be doing the unboxing for you. Feel free to submit your questions as they come up. Please use the Q&A feature in Zoom as opposed to raising your hand, that feature in Zoom. And today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll send out the recording to everyone who registered. Now I'm going to hand it over to Sam so we can get started.
Thanks, Michelle. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope everyone is well. Gio, good to see you.
You know what?
Good to see you, man. Look, the T20 looks exciting. And guys, like Michelle mentioned today, we're going to be talking about the brand new Agras T20 series. We're going to be doing an unboxing, which it's already obviously on the table. But Gio's going to go over a lot of the items that are going to come in that system when you order it, as well as some of the features and the different specs that are available for it. Keep in mind, like Michelle mentioned, we are going to have a Q&A session. So go ahead and ask whatever questions you might have in the Q&A section. As they get answered, if they do get answered as we're going along, which I'm sure many will, we'll address that at the end as well. But you know, if there's anything repetitive as well, we're going to address it towards the end. So Gio, if you want to go ahead and get started, take the lead on this, man. Show us some of what the T20 can do. Show us what's included with the system. And guys, like I said, any questions, go ahead and start typing them up. Thanks.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Giovanni Ruiz, Lead Tech Support Manager here at Drone Nerds. And I'm here to present to you the beast of a drone of the T20, the Agras T20. That's the newest in the Agras line from DJI. As you can see, it is ginormous, but there's a reason for that. This thing will give you 27 hectares of coverage in an hour. Obviously, you're going to have to replace batteries. It's not going to do all that in one battery. That's pretty much impossible. But it'll cover a lot of ground for you. Starting with the top of the drone, you can see here there's the spray tank, right? So the spray tank holds 20 liters, hence the name Agras T20. Operational capacity is 20 liters, but you can use 15 liters if you don't need to use as much, and that'll bring down the weight a little bit. But just be aware that you can actually carry up to 20 liters in this tank, okay? Moving on from there, you've got the battery compartment, which is sitting right here. Let me get a battery for you so I can show you right here. This is actually a T16 battery. It's not really meant to work with the T20, but just for showing purposes, you stick it right here, it goes down, and then it locks in place. Then you touch the button, turn it on, and everything goes. Get that out of there. And the battery itself lasts, I want to say between 8 to 10 minutes. DJI says that it lasts 12 to 15, but real world operation, you're looking at about 8 to 10 minutes. And again, that's enough to cover a really good distance with the drone. You get a charger, you get a 4-channel charger with it. And the 4-channel charger, you can have 4 batteries charging while you're flying the drone, so you don't have to worry about running out of battery life, or batteries, I should say, while you're flying. But you know, it's going to be about 8 to 10 minutes for flight time, so you got to have batteries ready to go. From there, we can look at the spraying system. There's 8 nozzles on this aircraft. Each nozzle puts out, I don't remember how much liters per minute is, but it's a lot. And you can actually change the nozzles on here. There's a bag that you get with it as well. That's got a lot of little bits and pieces and parts. And you can see nozzle attachments in here as well, so you can change those out. And here you also have your manual. You've got a 4G LTE dongle so that you can put it into the remote control and have internet access using a SIM card from your favorite provider, right? And then also you've got charging cables. You've got a spare foam for the arms to hold the arms in place, screws, screwdrivers, you name it, it's all in here. It's just an extra bag of spare parts for you. You also get, if you want to go the RTK route, if you need to, you get the RTK dongle that would work with the Aggress itself. So if you have your RTK working, this will plug in and work with that. Then moving on from there, kind of hard to show, but it's on the front of the drone here. There is a forward-facing camera that allows you to see where the drone is flying. It's just for safety, just in case there's an unexpected obstacle on the field, a bush or something like that you didn't notice was there. You can see it with the camera and take appropriate actions, but it also does have obstacle avoidance. It's got the sensors built into the drone, and it also has the scanning radar on the bottom of the aircraft that allows it to map out the field and see what's all around it, what obstacles are there as well. Also on the front of the drone, there is the pump system that attaches to the spray tank. The pump system is super easy to change out just in case you ever need to. These are really robust, you don't actually ever have to, but just in case. They're really simple to pull out. It's got a couple of screws and you just pull it out, put the new one in, put new screws in, and you're good to go. And then the spray tank itself, if you need to remove it, just come around here, pull up. Okay. That never works the way I want it to. But you're supposed to just pull up on it and it'll come out. That's it. So there's the spray tank itself. Real simple to pull out and put a new one in, just in case you have another chemical you want to spray and you don't have time to clean it out and change the chemical. You just get another spray tank, fill it with the chemical you need, and put it right back in there, and it pops in place. And that's all there is to it. The aircraft itself weighs 40, I want to say 45 kilograms. So it's not light by any means. It does require an overweight exemption to fly, and you also need your crop duster license to be able to fly this aircraft. There's a lot of regulations, but the good thing is that they're simple to acquire. It's not a big deal. So just be aware that you need those. And also, we've got the spreader attachment here. So you can see it's got a little spraying wheel on the bottom, or spreading wheel. You can put up to 5mm granules in this spreader tank. And as it's flying along, it'll just, spread it out. The seeds or fertilizer granules or whatever, whatever you want to spread out with it. There's actually people down in Central America that are using these to feed shrimp farms and fish farms, tilapia farms. They put the food in here, they fly it over the ponds, it spreads it all out, they're good to go. Instead of having 20 people doing the job, they've got 2 people, one filling the spreader and one flying the drone, and that's it. From there, move this out of the way. Again, as I was saying before, you've got the CSM radar down here. What it does is it creates a 3D map of the area that it's flying over in real time. And it's not a shareable map, but it's something that the drone uses with AI to determine altitude, to determine obstacles, and kind of to determine where it needs to go. Because you can set up the system, you can set up the map and plot out where you're going to fly the aircraft, but you still need to understand that it can run into situations where there are obstacles. So what the CSM radar does in conjunction with the forward-facing anti-collision sensors is that it maps out the whole field and it understands where it is. So if it does run into an obstacle, it knows to avoid it. It'll either go around it or above it, depending on the height or how wide it is. And then, speaking of the remote, you get the smart remote controller. Looks like the Enterprise Edition. It's a little different because it's got an actual battery door back here for the WB37 batteries. And this just allows you to extend the life of the remote, because with the external battery, well, the built-in battery, you get 2 hours of flight time, or yeah, 2 hours of life. If you put the WB37 battery in here, excuse me, you get another extra, so it's 4 hours. You get another extra 2 hours with this battery in here as well. So 4 hours where you can fly around, don't have to worry about charging it. And if this battery runs out, pop it open, replace the battery, and you're good to go. On the remote, it also comes preloaded with the Aggress agricultural management system. So what that is the software that you would need to plan your field, plan your flight routes, do any adjustments that you would need to do to the aircraft as far as flight height, speed, spray, how fast you're spraying, things like that. And it also gives you all the information for the aircraft as well, the battery life, the sensors, the remaining amount of liquid in the spray tank, which is obviously very important as well. And depending on the liquid itself, you can set the flow rate through the remote to match what it is that you're trying to use. So if you're using, let's say, a low potency fertilizer, you can increase the flow rate to be able to spread more at a faster pace while the aircraft is flying slower. So you can get that fertilizer down where you need it to. Or let's say you've got a high potency fungicide, right? So with that fungicide, you would want to spray less and fly faster. And you do all that right through the remote. It'll guide you exactly on how to do this. It's really not rocket science, very simple. The only thing it does require is internet access to be able to get the location of where you are. So a map, pretty much. You'll see a map that pops up on the screen, and it gives you the ability to plan the fields pretty much in, I guess you could say, real time. So with that, you can see exactly where you're going to spray and delineate the area. After that's done, you can go ahead and set your spray rate and all that good stuff. When you hit go, the aircraft takes off automatically and it goes and it does its thing. Also, you can see the RTK information through there as well. So you can verify if your RTK is working correctly. You can also connect to a network RTK system, the N-Trip network. But you would still need that 4G LTE dongle that comes with it to be able to do that, because it does need internet access to do that. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it. Well, let me show you the charger real quick. So,
hey Gio, while you're showing us the charger, can you also let us know about the amps needed to run that charging system?
Say that again, I'm sorry?
The ampage needed to run the charging system?
It's just a 110. You just plug it into a wall. Just plug it into a regular 110 outlet. It doesn't need 220. You can use 220 with it, and that would give it more power, but it's not necessary. You just need a 110. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so the charger, I'll show you here. The plug, this plug right here just plugs right into the bottom of the battery. Well, technically it's the side, but it's the side bottom of it. And you can plug in all four batteries at once, and it just cycles through the batteries, charging them, as needed. And it does prioritize batteries that have a lower charge in them already. So if you've got one that's 75% full and one that's 30% full, it'll start charging the 30% battery before the 75% battery. Okay, and it does that for all the batteries. And that's pretty much it for the drone itself. It looks, like it's really complicated. It's really not. It's very simple. Excuse me, aircraft to operate. It's really not hard. Not a big deal.
So now we've done a quick walkthrough of what's actually included with the system and whatnot. Can you go over what the workflow itself would be like software wise? What kind of software you would actually integrate with this from DJI, and also the different types of systems that are available for it, different workflows that you can use with this.
Right. So the simplest workflow would be what I mentioned before, which is going with the remote and the aircraft out into the field, and just using the mission planner that's built in to plan out the field that you're going to spray, and then hit go, right? Go from there. The other workflow that you could do is using DJI Terra and a Phantom 4 RTK. You can go ahead and map out the field that you want to fly over. And then with the Phantom 4 RTK, then you can go ahead and import that into Terra. In Terra, you can build the map, delineate any obstacles that are on the field, so that you don't have to worry about the radar doing its job or the front-facing sensors doing its job. And then after that, after the field is built, or it's mapped out, I should say, in Terra, you can export it to an SD card, take that SD card out, put it into the smart remote, and import that into the mission planner. Excuse me. And then it'll automatically, you'll just, you just find the field that you want to spray, the first field you want to spray, go from there, create the mission, hit go, and it goes from there. And then, also there's the manual option. You can fly it manually if you want, but it's not, not necessary. With all the smart features that you've got, it works, it works perfectly with the, with either the Terra system or flying it through the mission plan. Okay. You can also use the orchard feature that's on the aircraft. So there's a built-in intelligent flight mode called Orchard. Sorry, I'm so sorry. My throat is a little dry. So what that does is that it flies over trees, right? So let's say you've got a peach grove or orange grove, whatever the case may be. It'll recognize that those are individual trees. And what it'll do is it'll just spray on each individual tree. You don't have to worry about setting it up to where it does that. It just does it automatically. I know down in South and Central America, there's a lot of avocado trees, right? And the avocado trees tend to have an issue with I can't remember what they're called, but they're a pest. So they use these to actually fly over each individual avocado tree and spray each one, right? With no wasted solution. You don't have to worry about, oh, it's going to keep spraying after. No, it sprays one tree, it stops where there's a blank space, then it sprays the other tree. So it's smart enough that it understands where the trees actually are, so that it doesn't waste product, pretty much. And that's pretty much it.
So, and just to kind of confirm, one of the questions I'm getting here, when we're talking about the actual Terra workflow itself, when it comes to, well, I'm sorry, not Terra, when it comes to actual workflow of the Agras T20 series itself, keep in mind, this is not actually producing a file for you, right? This is only going to be used to actually map out a location where it's then going to go and spray, and that's about it, right? This is not going to provide any RGB data, multispectral data, anything like that, right? You can take the file it's creating, upload it to a multispectral system, for example, like a P4 multispectral or P4 RTK, map the routes, fly the T20, and then use the P4 multispectral to then review the work that was done, right?
Right, correct, yeah. So with the so that's a good thing that you brought up there. The multispectral is whether it's a P4 multispectral, whatever the case may be, it's an invaluable tool to help you figure out where you actually need to spray. Because sometimes your field is fine, the 90% of the field is fine, but there's this one little area in the corner or in the center or whatever the case may be that has an issue with, let's say, fertilizer, or there's some weeds that are growing there, whatever. With the multispectral, you can go ahead and find out exactly where that is, and then use the Agras to go and fly out to that area and spray it, right? And then you're done. You're good to go. That way you don't have to worry about it. A lot of farmers, unfortunately, they don't have access to this information, just due to the fact that they're very rural. There's no, let's say there's no communication really with the outside world much, so they don't have any access to their field reports and things like that. So they can use the aircraft, let's say the multispectral and the Terra, or sorry, the Aggress with Terra, to plan out exactly where they're going to go and spray these fields without having to worry about or rely on anyone else to give them that information, right? So you're good to go with that.
Right. So, I mean, that's like Gio said, that's one of the best things about the DJI workflow system. This is where you would actually start incorporating the Terra system. You'd start using it with the Phantom 4 series, be it the RTK or the multispectral, and then integrate it with your Agras T20. And like Gio was mentioning as well, with the guys that are out in the field, that don't really have access to anything, you want to have everything there available for you, right? And Gio, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, can you demonstrate to us the how easy it is to swap out the tanks, swap out the batteries? I know you showed it earlier, but if you could just show one more time, just how quick you can get everything.
No, it's super simple, man. So again, come over here. You literally just pull up. You just pull up on the tank. That's it. The tank comes out. You need to put another tank in. You just go in here. It's got channels. It's got channels built into the tank. On the front and the sides that show you exactly how it goes in. So you literally can't put this in the wrong way. It literally just goes in one way. That's it. Like it won't fit. You put it in this way, push it down. That's it. It's seated in place. That's for the tank. Now for the battery. The battery is literally just as easy. Let me just pull this over here a little bit. This thing is so huge. I love it. So with the battery, if let's see, you can see that. Battery goes in one way as well. It goes in, clicks in place. That's it. You're good to go. Then to replace the battery, there's a little clip here. Push on the clip and pull up. Battery comes out, replace it, you're good, you're done.
So another question I'm getting that I'm seeing here is, especially when it comes down to actually running the map and running the flight and everything like that, are you able to actually save that data for future uses? For example, if you want to map an area and come back to it 6 months later, right? Is that map saved in the Agras system?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. You can either save it to an SD card or you can, save it internally on the remote. It would be kind of silly if you weren't able to save it, honestly. There's nothing more annoying than having to do the work twice. So yeah, you can save it right on an SD card or save it on the remote, however you want to do it. So yeah.
And just to kind of go back over to it, let's say you don't have a Phantom 4 RTK and you wanted to actually go ahead and upload a shapefile, right, to the Agras T20.
Yep.
Can you explain the workflow on that one?
Yeah. So the shapefiles you're going to use, let's say Pix4D, right? Pix4D mapper. You build your map in Pix4D mapper, save it as a shapefile, and simple enough. You just put it right into the remote. You find that shapefile, import it into the Agras management system. That's it. You're done. It pops up right on the mission.
And then when it comes down to internet access, right? If I'm not mistaken, you don't have to have any internet access whatsoever to run the drone once you have the shapefile uploaded and you have the system ready to go.
Right, correct. Yeah. So the only reason you really would need internet access, let's say you're planning a mission out on the field and you want to see exactly where the fields are. You would need internet access at that point. But the other option is to also cache the map. So if you wanted to cache the area that so what you're doing is you're downloading the map onto the remote control. And then when you're out in the field or out in the area that you're going to actually fly, you don't have to worry about not being able to see the field because it's already downloaded into the remote. But as I was stating, you would need it for the network RTK function, and you would also need it if you don't if you don't cache or download the map prior. It's almost invaluable to have it, but again, it's not super necessary.
And when we look at the battery system itself, right, what are we looking at for charge times? I know that there's obviously different ranges from 10% to 30% and whatnot, but what have we seen that that the T16s and 20s can actually do on charge time?
So it's pretty much identical for both the T16 and the 20. So on the T16 battery, man, the difference is so negligible. Let's say 45 minutes from 30% or from about 25 to 30%. It's about 45 minutes to 55 minutes for charge time. And anything lower than 25%, you're looking at over an hour. If I'm not mistaken, it's an hour and 10 minutes or hour and 20 minutes, something like that.
Perfect. And another question that we've gotten as well, kind of reiterate again, if you can, the licensing, right? There's going to be special licensing that you need to apply for when it comes down to this system, just because of the weight, just because of the fact that it can actually carry liquid. There's a lot of different things that go into applying for the licensing on this. It's a very simple process. It's not very difficult. If you can just kind of reiterate that a little bit for us.
Yeah. So the first one you're going to need, without a doubt, is the Part 107. That allows you to fly commercially. It allows you to do any sort of commercial work with drones. That's the bread and butter. You're always going to need that. The second one you're going to need is the Part 183. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's the crop dusting license, the certification, I should say. I'm sorry, crop dusting certification. You're going to need that to fly this aircraft or any sort of any drone that sprays a liquid. It doesn't matter if it's water, doesn't matter if it's champagne. You need that license to be able to, or the certification, I should say. I'm sorry, to be able to spray it. The crop duster license, from my understanding, is not hard at all to get. It's as simple as the Part 107. Not to say that the Part 107 is the easiest thing ever, but it's not hard. It's not hard at all. You study for a couple of weeks or whatever, and you're good to go. And then the last one you're going to need is the overweight exemption. Why? Because this aircraft is super heavy. You're looking at about 70 pounds worth of aircraft. Again, this tank holds 20 liters. That's a lot of weight just in the tank, okay? Then you've got the battery, then you've got everything else. So this aircraft is super heavy. It takes minimum two people to pull this thing out of the box or to pull it out of the case, set it all up. It's gonna take a couple of people to do that. So the overweight exemption is completely necessary as well to be able to fly this aircraft. Now that's only here in the U.S. Other countries vary, obviously. Some countries, it's like the Wild West. There's no certifications needed. You can fly whatever you want. Nobody says anything. But those are very few and far between. But yeah, here in the U.S., you need your Part 107, your crop duster license certification, and your overweight exemption. Also, so this aircraft does have what's typically called swarm mode, where it's you can fly more than one aircraft with the remote. With this aircraft, you can fly up to 5 with one remote. Can't do that here. The FAA does not allow for more than one aircraft to be controlled with just one controller or one pilot in command. You have to have multiple pilots in command with multiple remotes to be able to fly more than one of these guys. So yeah, unfortunately, that's something that's going to have to be looked at by the FAA to see if in the future they can grant exemptions for that. But as of right now, you can't fly more than one aircraft with just one pilot in command.
Right, and that's, again, keep in mind, everybody, that's U.S. only for now.
Right, correct.
So I'm glad you mentioned that it's going to take, you know, at least 2 people to first take this out of the box, assemble it, get it ready, everything like that. Talk to me a little bit about maintenance and cleanup, right? Obviously, this is going to be flying in fields. This is not flying in, you know.
Oh, did we lose him? Did we lose everything? Can you guys hear me? Yes?
Yeah, I think we just lost Sam.
Yeah, we lost him. Well, that's fine.
Or he
I'll
froze.
go over what he was mentioning there. So maintenance for the aircraft, it is involved. So the first thing you have to do when you bring it back, let's say you're in a really dusty field, you've got a lot of dust, which is common. A lot of clay areas have a lot of dust, and you have a lot of.
Sorry, Gio.
Yeah.
Sorry, we lost you there for a minute, man. If you can just go ahead and start over. Something happened with the internet on that side. If you can go ahead and just
Okay.
over
Yeah.
again.
Where did I leave you off of?
We left off with me asking the question about the actual maintenance and cleaning of the product.
Right. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I was gonna go over. The dust, so again, there's locations that are really dusty, really, a lot of dust in the air, a lot of vegetation, a lot of vegetative matter can be kicked up because, the props on these things are huge, right? So it's gonna kick up a lot of air, which helps with spreading the product underneath the aircraft. I mean, it'll spread out up to 10 feet, okay? The aircraft will spread the product really far around it. But anyway, so the dust is going to work itself into the motors because the motors do have air channels that allow for air to come into the motor and cool the motor itself, and also the ESC assembly. The ESC assembly is right behind it, and you can see it there. Well, you can't really see, but here, let me see on this one. Can you see it on this one? Well, right here is the whole ESC assembly. And there's 2 fins back here. On those 2 fins, those 2 fins help with the cooling, but there's also air that gets pushed through here as the motor is spinning, right? So all of that dust is going to make its way into the motor and into this area here. But the real cool part is that fortunately, you can actually just take all this apart. Right, so there's screws that are on the top of the motor assembly. There's screws that are on the top of the ESC assembly, and the screwdrivers come in the package as I showed you earlier. And you can just take these screws off on the motor. There's 4 screws. There's 4 screws on the motor. Those pop right off. You pull this off. Spray in there with some compressed air. That's all you really need is just compressed air. A can of compressed air. Or if you have a, oh God, what's that called? Oh my God. Yeah, a generator, an air generator. I can't remember what the heck it's called. Compressed air generator?
The compressed air.
I'm sorry, I'm having a senior moment. I apologize. Yeah, you can spray in there with the compressed air, whatever the case may be. And then on ESC assembly itself, you pull off the screws. You're not voiding the warranty by doing this, by the way. Pull off the screws, spray around in there as well with compressed air, and that gets out the dust and the dirt, and little bits of vegetative matter, all that stuff. Okay. Also, a lot of the chemicals that are used, the fertilizers, pesticides, things like that, those can be corrosive, right? So what you're going to want to do, you can't obviously spray inside here with any sort of liquid other than contact clean. So what you're going to want to do is spray off the aircraft with a hose, just regular water, to make sure that none of that corrosive chemical stays on the aircraft. And then when you open these up, you don't have to do this often. If I'm not mistaken, it's every 3 months that you got to open these up. It's really not that much. Open them up. What I recommend is looking for contact cleaner. The reason I recommend this is because it's literally the only liquid that you can use. It's a fluorocarbon. It's the only liquid that you can use that will clean off electronic, things, contacts, wires, plugs, things like that, and it will not damage the electrical components at all. So you spray some contact cleaner in there, let it evaporate off, and then with a light brush, you can just brush it off or just let it evaporate, and it's fine because it cleans it off while the liquid is on. Do that for the ESCs, do that for the motors, do that for the connectors on the battery. There's all these connectors up here. You know, it is somewhat sealed, but when you pull a battery off and you put it down, you're probably going to put it on the ground. You'll get some dust up in there. You get some dust on here, things like that. So that'll build up after, you know, over time. Not to mention the power going through these will also build up residue as well. The electricity, the contact, I should say, the contact rubbing off of each other will produce, you know, metal filings and things like that. You want to make sure those are clean. Again, it's not an every time thing. It's every 3 to 6 months you would do that as well. On DJI's website, there's a maintenance manual for it. Follow the maintenance manual. It's real simple. Then for the arms, if I can show you here, these nuts are collars, I should say, that go onto the arm and lock it in place. They don't need anything. There's nothing that's necessary here to lube them up or anything like that.
And Gio, sorry to interrupt you real quick. If you want, you can take the camera a little bit closer just so you can kind of showcase what you're
no, we've got it set up on a tripod. It's kind of tricky right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can, unfortunately. I apologize. But yeah, we'll do what we can here. These collars, again, they don't need any lubrication, nothing like that. But if you feel that the arms themselves are becoming stuck, there is a screw that goes through the hinge assembly right here on the back of the arm. You can take that screw off, take the nut off, I should say, then take the screw out and lightly grease it. Just a very light grease. It doesn't need anything crazy. Put it back in there and it should work freely. Then the tank. So for the spray tanks, you don't ever want to leave chemicals in the spray tanks either. You can get precipitation buildup. Again, there's corrosion that can occur. You know, even plastic. Plastic is supposed to be inert to a lot of chemicals, but it can over time be degraded, right? So you want to clean the tanks out with distilled water. Don't use regular tap water. Regular tap water's got calcium. It's got, you know, carbonates in it that will precipitate out as well, and it'll cause the lines to become clogged. You don't want to use regular tap water. Get yourself some distilled water, put it in the tank, swish it around, dump that out. Then if you can fill the tank with distilled water, that would be ideal, because then you can run the system. Excuse me. You can run the system while you're on the ground and have it spray out through the nozzles. And what the distilled water does, since it doesn't have any minerals or anything in it, it actually eats the deposits that are on the spray nozzles, that are inside the hoses, that are inside the pumps, all that stuff. So it cleans it all out. You don't have to use any other chemicals to clean it out, just regular distilled water, and you're good to go. And then for the nozzles themselves, like I said before, you can replace them. So what you can, if you want to clean them out as well, you can remove them. And I'm not going to do it right now, but you can remove the actual nozzle itself, pull it out, use let's say if there's some hard buildup in there, you can take it and put it into citric acid, or just even vinegar. Vinegar works great. Put it in vinegar, swirl it around in there, use a little toothpick to clean out the little holes and all that, and put it back, and you're good to go. And then for the rest of the aircraft, just make sure that it's not caked in dust, because it's going to clog up the vents that are on the front of the aircraft. There are vent holes on the front that can be clogged up with dust. So make sure you blow those out. Make sure you clean off the little front-facing camera and the sensors, the front-facing sensors for the obstacle avoidance. Those need to be maintained, kept clean. But that's simple. You just wipe it off with a microfiber cloth or towel or whatever, and it's done. There's nothing else to it. And then the radar would need to be maintained as well. But the one thing you gotta know about the radar, so you don't really want to like bang this thing, right? The radar is sensitive. If it takes a hit while it's running, there's a possibility that you can damage it, right? But so what you want to do is with the aircraft off, you can actually remove the radar. If there's anything stuck to it, you know, any buildup or whatever the case may be, clean that off. But you can only use a non-ammonia product like I don't know, like a glass cleaner without ammonia in it, or just water. You just use regular water and clean that off. You have to keep the radar clean because it cannot penetrate through caked up dirt or mud or whatever the case may be. Because eventually you're going to land this thing somewhere wet, right? And farms are full of dirt and mud and stuff like that. So when you land it somewhere, make sure that where you're landing it isn't too, crazy, not too wet or anything. But it can happen. It'll land, and then it'll sink a little bit. The bottom of the radar will touch the mud or the dirt or whatever the case may be, and that'll stay on there. And then you'll notice that there's a performance issue. It'll tell you, I can't remember what it says. Radar degraded, if I'm not mistaken, is what it says. And that's letting you know that there's something blocking the radar itself from operating correctly. So make sure that's clean. And that's pretty much it, man. There's really not much else to it. That's pretty much all the maintenance you have.
And would you recommend, like, some people are asking here, can they use a pressure washer or anything like that on the drone daily?
No, definitely not. You don't ever want to spray water under pressure onto the drone. So when I said use a garden hose, I meant like literally just the water dribbling out of the garden hose without like the sprayer attachment to clean it up. You're not going to want to use a pressure cleaner. That's a huge no-no. That'll get all up inside the electronics, and that's it from there.
Right. Another one too is, when you're cleaning out the inside of the tank, and you said to run it with distilled water or vinegar even or anything like that, is that something that you want to be using for the chemical mixture itself after you run a chemical mixture through it, or should you be using something very specific for cleaning that chemical out of the system?
No, there's nothing else you need to use. Literally just distilled water. So when you clean out the spray tank, like I said, you can put some water in here. So you pull out the tank, put some water in there, swish it around just to get the majority of the residue out of there. Dump that out, and then fill the tank if you can with distilled water. That distilled water, you don't need vinegar, you don't need anything. You just distilled water. That's it. You can put the water in there. Turn the sprayers on while the aircraft is on the ground. You can totally do that. It's not a problem. Or even fly it around. If you want to get some practice flying it, fill it full of distilled water and just go flying around and spraying it, just have fun with it, whatever. But literally just distilled water. That's all you need. Run the entire tank through. Make sure it goes through all the, through the entire cycle. And when it's empty, it'll tell you it's empty, bring it back, or just turn it off, whatever the case may be, and you're good to go.
Right. And the same goes for the nozzles at the very end of each sprayer arm that we see there.
Right.
Same thing, right? Let the distilled water run through it. From there, grab a microfiber towel, wipe off the tips. That way they're nice and clean, and you're pretty much good to go.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Very simple. Very simple. It's the maintenance on this thing. It's a big technologically advanced drone, but the maintenance is super simple, man. It's not like you have to take the whole thing apart to clean every little bit and piece on it. It's pretty rugged. It'll take some abuse. I'm not saying crashing into the side of crashing into a wall or a tree or anything, but as far as maintenance is concerned, you don't have to take the thing apart. Just the nozzles. That's pretty much it. And make sure it's just clean. What you don't ever want to do is leave any liquid inside the hoses that's not water, or leave any liquid inside the tank that's not water. That will cause an issue for sure. Right. I can't stress that enough. It will cause a problem, depending on how harsh the chemical is as well. But water, fine. Water is not a problem. You can leave water in this thing all day long. Nothing will rust. Nothing will happen to it. But you do want to make sure that all of the lines are cleaned out, the tank is cleaned out, all that stuff. That's really the biggest thing.
Going back to the RTK module itself, can you go over a little bit why the RTK dongle is available for the remote controller and what the purpose of that would even be?
Yeah, so the RTK dongle is to communicate with the remote, with the RTK base station. So that triangulates the location of the aircraft. RTK stands for real-time kinematic. And that's what that does is using the the ground station and the antennas on the aircraft, it will triangulate its position sub 5 centimeters. So it's got really crazy accuracy. And what that does is it allows you to spray precisely. So let's say you've got a field and then you've got a neighboring field that's a completely different product. So let's say you've got soybeans on one side and you've got cotton on the other. You don't want to spray the cotton with the same type of liquid that you're going to spray the soybeans with, right? So you're going to want to make sure that your aircraft is flying exactly where it needs to go so that there's no overspray. So the RTK system allows you to do that and not have to worry about the aircraft is going to drift one way or the other or up or down or whatever the case may be. It's going to maintain a steady course wherever you tell it to go, pretty much. Okay, and that's what that's for. It's just a really precise GPS system, pretty much.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's also going to go with the workflow with the P4RTK and multispectral as well. Taking that data, uploading it to each system, and running it again.
Right.
Going to make sure that you're also getting the most available data possible and the most accurate data possible from your run itself.
Correct.
Yeah. Going over the distance of the T20, right? Flight distance. What's the max range of an area that the drone can cover, and how far away can the operator be away from the drone itself?
So the T20 uses a type of OcuSync system, but it's not tailored for distance. It's tailored for fidelity. In other words, it's tailored so that the aircraft does not lose connection with the remote. So you can't really go that far with it. It's up to a mile at the most. And you can't fly high either. 30 meters is the high. No, not even. I think it was 10 meters. I'm sorry. You can't fly higher than 10 meters, which is about 30 feet. Because this aircraft is not meant to go up high. It's meant to fly low over your plants or your crops, I should say, and spray them. And it's also not meant to go far. You'd be hard pressed to find an area where you fly more than a mile to actually spray a crop. There's always cuts in the field. There's always ways to get around the area, the field to where you can be close to where you're actually going to fly. So yeah, no more than a mile, no more than 30 feet up in the air.
Going back to the orchard mode system that's now available on the T20 series, right? Because this is going to be one of the newer solutions that's available for it. Will the T20 itself, when it's in orchard mode, will it adapt the spray pattern or volume based on the size of the tree, or is that 100% up to the user?
That is up to the user. The user defines what the volume of spray is, how fast it's going to go. The altitude is defined by the radar, but the user defines, because the drone doesn't know what liquid you're putting through it. You know what liquid you're putting through it, so you would have to set the flow rate to accommodate the liquid that you're using. You don't want to spray as much fungicide as you would want to spray, let's say, fertilizer, right? So you would have to set the liquid flow rate for a fertilizer for a much faster flow than you would for a fungicide, just for an example. So yeah, you set the flow rate, you set the speed, but then the aircraft takes care of the rest as far as flying over the trees are concerned to spray the trees. Oh, I'm sorry, but you do have to delineate the area. So you got to tell the drone, so you're going to fly. So this is the area you're going to fly starting here, and it's going to go over here. Fly, it's going to fly its pattern depending on how you set up the actual area that you're going to fly. So it can do a lawnmower pattern, or it can do a zigzag pattern over the trees, or however you want to do it. You can turn it in the mission planner on the Aggress management system. You can turn the way the actual field is set up, so that because not every single field is going to have perfect rows of trees, perfectly aligned with each other. They can be off. They can be set at an angle, things like that. So you can set the way the drone actually flies over the trees to spray it in the most efficient manner. Pretty much, it's not It has nothing to do with effectiveness. It's just efficiency that it's going to use to be able to spray the trees without killing the battery too quickly, without running out of spray liquid before the mission is actually done. If that does happen, if you run out of liquid or if the battery gets down very low, the aircraft will come back to where it took off from. You can pull the battery or you can pull the spray tank, put in a new battery, put in more liquid, and then when you turn it on and hit resume, the aircraft will go right back to where it was spraying and resume the operation. So you don't have to worry about, oh crap, I gotta go start the field again. No, the aircraft knows exactly where it left off. It goes right back to where it left off and it starts spraying again in the predetermined time.
Yeah, and that's just something everybody also has to take into account when they're swapping batteries on site or anything like that. We have to keep in mind that the drone will resume from where it was originally. But again, it doesn't just, magically pop up in that location. So we need to take that into account when you're doing your flight times. Gio, for the RTK system itself, right? Can you show us where the dongle system will actually go for the T20?
Yeah. Where's the Sorry, give me 1 second. There's just a little bit of prep.
No problem.
So the way you connect it, real simple. Let me come around here, see if I can show you. So there's the remote, right? There's the RTK dongle. If you notice on the RTK dongle itself, it's got that USB connector, and then it's got like two teeth, for lack of a better word. So those two teeth are going to fit into the slot on the top of the remote, and then you just literally plug it right in. Oh, I always get it backwards. You plug it right in there, and that's it. That's all it is. And the remote will recognize that you've got the RTK dongle connected. So you don't have to go through any crazy hoops or anything. It'll know that it's there.
Perfect. Yeah, just as simple as plugging it into the RC system itself, making sure it's activated, and then taking off.
Right. That's pretty much it.
Going to the system itself, where you're actually plugging in the tank into the drone, is there an actual like a filter system that's built into it there on the bottom, just to kind of make sure no contaminants fly into it or anything like that?
Yes, correct. Yeah. So inside the tank, there is a filter, and also on the mouth of the tank, you've got a filter as well. So this, when you're pouring the liquid in there, this will catch any large particles, right? But then inside the tank, there's also a filter also as well. It kind of looks like this one, but it's a little bit finer mesh. So I can't tell you exactly what it'll filter down to, but it does have a finer mesh. So with these two combined, you don't have to worry about clogging the nozzles or anything like that with any particulate that may make its way into the tank.
Perfect. And when we're looking at the drone itself, right, there's always going to be a situation or something happens on the field, or in the, it's getting too close to a tree. I don't know, the obstacle avoidance system, for some reason, it just didn't do what it needed to do, right? What are some of the emergency actions that can be done with this drone?
So one of the biggest scenarios that can occur is a crop duster flying over, or a helicopter crop dusting as well. They're either a fixed wing or a helicopter. I've heard of situations where there have been aircraft that are flying around spraying, and a helicopter comes down and it tries to spray a field next to it, and they get a little too close to each other. So the emergency maneuver that you're going to want to do there, so that you don't crash, because I don't care how much you pay for a drone's not worth more than a human life, right? So what you're going to want to do is pull. Actually, let me show you. So the emergency maneuver here is bringing down both sticks down into the center, which turns off the aircraft while it's flying. So when you do that, the aircraft will literally drop out of the sky. That's the best thing to do, really. If you're going to go into a situation where you're going to hit an aircraft or a person, turn it off. Turn it off, let it drop out of the sky. You know, I'm sorry, it's, you know, you lost the money, but again, it's more important to save life than it is the aircraft. The other thing you can do is when you're flying the aircraft, you can take manual control. So you can move either one of the sticks and take manual control while the aircraft is flying. It'll ask you on the screen if you want to take manual control. You press yes, and then you can fly the aircraft manually. Another thing is if the aircraft is, you know, far away and you want to bring it back home, but you don't want to fly it manually, you can just hit the return to home button. You hit that button, hold it down for a couple seconds, it'll start to beep, and the aircraft will come back home. But yeah, you can take manual control, have it, you know, fly it manually, bring it down, bring it back, you know, fly it sideways so that it avoids an obstacle or whatever the case may be.
Perfect. And then the other question I had for you that we've gotten here, you know, are there any limitations on the liquid itself? Is there like a pH balance or a certain alkalinity that it cannot reach that should not be used with the system?
I mean, you don't want to use hydrochloric acid with it, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, I mean, nothing super basic and nothing super alkaline. So again, no real strong acids like hydrochloric or muriatic or anything like that. And no real strong alkaline solutions like, well, easiest example is lye. Lye is very caustic and it'll eat through a lot. I don't think it'll eat through plastic, but there are metal components in here and rubber components like the diaphragms that are inside the motors, the pumps, that it will most definitely eat through. Same with any really basic or acidic solution. But like I said, muriatic acid or hydrochloric acid, you don't want to put anything like that in. The majority, I'd say 99% of agricultural chemicals will not cause any issues or harm with the aircraft. There are people that have tried to use these as like a, like a pressure cleaner, not a pressure cleaner, but they've tried to use it to clean stuff. And they found out the hard way that the chemicals that are used for cleaning are much harsher and will completely destroy the system. Mm-hmm. First thing that goes is the pump. Then after that is all the metal fittings, and then everything else gets clogged in the system because you've got a bunch of debris and stuff like that. So yeah, nothing too nothing too basic or acidic, and nothing too alkaline. But again, 99% of agricultural chemicals fit that bill. You don't have to worry about it. You can run any of those products through. Perfect.
You know, another thing I wanted to kind of mention here, and it keeps coming up as a question, is, you know, the recommended generator size by DJI for charging these batteries in field is at least 3,500 watts. So right. Everybody just kind of keep that in mind. 3,000 is the minimum. 3,500 is recommended. Obviously, just go up from there as needed.
I would say get something a little higher rated, mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because a lot of companies overestimate exactly how much power their generators put out. So a 3,500 watt generator can actually be putting out 2,900 watts. So the peak they're saying is 3,500. Yeah. But peak is not what you want. You want continuous power, right? Yeah. So continuous power, you've got to look for something at least. I would say, yeah, I know DJI says 3,500, but I would say at least 4,000 watts because it is. You know, the batteries are huge. That charger is really hungry. It really is. It sucks a lot of power. Yeah. So yeah, 4,000 watts I would say would be the minimum. Again, you can get away with 3,500, but I would go for 4,000 watts. Right.
Always better to be prepared than unprepared.
Right.
You know, another question we've gotten here, and we're going to get close to wrapping this up now because we've actually gone through a good majority of them. The last two questions I have for you, one is going to be, you know, when you're in the field, right, and you've got different areas that you're going to be spraying, right, different crops on opposing sides of each other, you know, what would you recommend, right? Obviously, my response would be to just have multiple tanks, readily available to be able to swap between what you're going to be spraying. But can you kind of walk us through what would be the best possible workflow to making sure that if you're swapping between fluids, the fastest way to do that, and to make sure that you're not, you know, mixing any spray or mixing anything that's not supposed to go on one crop?
I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. If you're trying to spray more than one crop with the same aircraft, you have to have a setup that allows you to make the distinction between the solutions that you're using, or even, you know, you could even be spraying the same crop, but you want to spray multiple solutions. So you got to make sure that you've got that all set up to go, so that you're not pretty much not wasting time. Nobody wants to be outside for 20 hours for no reason, right? So yeah, make sure that you've got your spray solutions set up and ready to go in separate tanks. And then make sure that you have your battery charging system working so that you can swap the batteries out as the aircraft comes back. You know, you pull you pull the battery out of the drone. It's going to be warm. You put it onto the charger. The charger won't actually start charging the battery until it cools down a little bit. But in the meantime, you've got a battery. You pull it out, put it in there, and the aircraft is ready to go again. The spray tanks, you can go one of two ways. I'm a fan of using multiple spray tanks, just because you don't have to worry about mixing solutions, right? So let's say you bring the aircraft back, you've got fertilizer in here, but then you want to put you know, herbicide or a fungicide or something in there. You have to clean the spray tank out along with the nozzles, because there's going to be residual liquid left in there. You're going to want to clean that out, you know, again, with the distilled water, pour it in there, spray it out, make sure it's all sprayed out. And then you can go ahead and fill the tank with your other solution, right? That's time consuming, obviously. So what you want to do is pull the tank, get your other tank, put that in there with your other different solution, let it sit for a couple seconds on the ground, you hit the spray button, let it spray out what's left inside the lines, and then you can go ahead and continue or do another mission or whatever the case may be. But your best bet is to really have multiple tanks. Depending on the size of your location, you know, it's not unheard of to have 6 or 8 tanks, right? With different solutions in them, or even just the same solution, but just to make your job a lot easier, you just pull it, put the new one in, you're good to go. Done.
And you're also avoiding air in the lines. You're also avoiding having to reprime the system, making sure everything is cleared. You know, you're avoiding a lot of headache by just making sure you have multiple pieces available. Right. And again, this just goes right back to being prepared, right, in the field. The less downtime, obviously, the more money you're making. Yes, everybody, we're going to be sending this webinar, just as a reminder. We're going to be sending this to everybody afterwards as well, for everyone who's registered. So this will be going out to everybody. The last thing, Gio, if you can, real quick, can you just show us how the arms fold up on this piece?
Yeah, real simple. So let me put this over here. So the front arm you saw, it just literally just folds down. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. These props are actually pretty durable. So if it hits the ground, you don't have to worry about it too much. And then the other props, what did I do with the foam? Oh, never mind. I was going to show you how to put the foam pieces on, but they're a little far away. Can we get those? Yeah. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to get the foam. Okay, I'm going to get the foam pieces so I can show you. But yeah, so the collars, you unscrew the collars. Right, that comes back, and then this comes back as well. And then literally they just fold together. So, sorry, that's this one first. That one first, and then this one. And then each arm has a little slot that it actually fits into. So right here, you can see this little slot here. So the arm just pops right into that slot and it holds it. And then the other arm pops into that slot as well, and that's it. You're pretty much good to go. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so the foam pieces, you're going to sit them right here, and then that holds, if I can get it on, there you go. That holds the prop in place, so the prop doesn't, flop all over the place. And then the foam itself has a little cutout for the tube, so you just fit it where the tube is, put the props in there, and you're good to go. So that stops it from flopping around. And it's the same for every arm. You've got the same foam piece for every arm. Then you're gonna go and put it on there. Actually, this one goes on the other side. There, and that fits in there, and you're good to go. That's it. Super simple. They all fold the same.
Perfect. Yeah. And then you just pop the tanks out, pop the batteries out, and you're pretty much good to go. Just as a reminder, guys, there will be little replacement pieces available for this drone as needed. It's something that's very easy to kind of keep in the field and work on yourself. And that's the way DJI has actually designed these things. But with that, Gio, do you have any closing statements that you want to make on the Agras T20?
Yeah, I mean, so this aircraft, for its capabilities, for the price, for the built-in features that it has, it's really the best thing on the market right now. There are competitors out there that are like little mini helicopters and all this other stuff. But just to think that you have to pay somebody to come out, spray your field for you, pay for the rental, pay for all the chemicals and all that stuff, it's more of a waste of money. With the Agras, you do it all yourself. It's all super simple. It really doesn't take any rocket scientist. As a matter of fact, the GPS-enabled tractors, the new ones that are out there that can go and plow a field or till a field or whatever the case may be by themselves are more complicated than flying this thing. Okay, so the ease of use, the price, I really do think it's a winner. And support. We're here to support you guys. If you purchase from us, or even if you don't, but if you purchase from us, we will support you for whatever questions you may have. Whatever you may need. We do training, so we can train you on how to use this thing. But yeah, I love it. I think it's a great drone, and it does what it's supposed to do. No muss, no fuss. It's all business. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts there.
Absolutely. And just to kind of reiterate what Gio said, I mean, this is something that already has some history as a product. DJI is one of the first ones to go into the space. It's the one that's continued building up in this space, and the T20 is really just the greatest iteration of what they've been able to do for the agriculture market. So with that, thank you guys for joining our webinar today. Gio, thank you for being on today. If you have any questions, any concerns, please reach out on the technical side to Gio. His email is gio@dronenerds.com. Mine is Sam, SAM, @dronenerds.com. And if you have any questions or anything like that, please let us know. Michelle, thank you.
Yes, thank you for joining, everyone. And we'll be sending out the recording tomorrow along with Sam's and Gio's contact information, so you can reach out if you would like. And we hope to see you on another Drone Nerds Tech Talk soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, thanks.